Hey everyone, and welcome back to our Storytime Corner. Have you ever woken up to find a chore you were dreading was magically done for you? Like your room was suddenly clean or your homework was finished. It sounds like a dream, right? Well, today we re-diving into a classic fairy tale about something just like that happening to a very kind, but very poor shoemaker. It's a wonderful story about mysterious helpers, beautiful shoes, and the magic of kindness. So get comfy and let's begin the story of the Elves and the Shoemaker. Once upon a time, in a small, cozy cottage, lived a shoemaker and his wife. They were very good people, but they had fallen on hard times. They became so poor that at last, the shoemaker had only enough leather left to make one single pair of shoes. That evening, he carefully cut out the leather, planning to sew the shoes the next morning. With a heavy heart, he left the pieces on his workbench, said his prayers, and went to bed, trusting that things would somehow get better. The next morning, he woke up, went to his workshop, and couldn't believe his eyes. There on his workbench, where he had left the cut leather, sat a perfectly finished pair of shoes. They were stitched so neatly and crafted so beautifully, they were a true work of art. He was completely astonished. He didn't know what to think. That very same day, a customer came into the shop. He liked the shoes so much that he paid more than the usual price for them. The shoemaker was overjoyed. With that money, he was able to buy enough leather for 2 more pairs of shoes. That evening, just like before, he cut out the leather and left it on his workbench, ready to be sewn in the morning. And again, when he woke up, he found 2 pairs of stunning, perfectly made shoes waiting for him. It was like magic. Soon, customers flocked to his shop, eager to buy these wonderful shoes. With the money, he bought leather for 4 pairs, and the next morning, 4 pairs were finished. This continued night after night. Whatever leather he cut out in the evening was beautifully crafted into the finest shoes by morning. The shoemaker and his wife soon became quite comfortable and were no longer poor. One evening, just before Christmas, the shoemaker said to his wife, "We've been so lucky. We should try to find out who our secret helpers are so we can thank them." His wife agreed, so that night, instead of going to bed, they hid behind a curtain in the workshop and waited. As the clock struck midnight, 2 tiny naked elves scampered into the room. They hopped onto the workbench and began to work. With their nimble little fingers, they stitched and hammered and sewed so quickly and skillfully that the shoemaker could not take his eyes off them. They worked tirelessly until all the shoes were finished. Then they scurried away as quickly as they came. The next morning, the shoemaker's wife said, "Those dear little elves have made us rich. We must show them how grateful we are. It's so cold and they have nothing to wear. I'll make them each a tiny shirt, a coat, a vest, and a pair of trousers. And you can make them each a tiny pair of shoes." The shoemaker thought this was a wonderful idea. They worked all day, and by evening, the tiny clothes and shoes were ready. Instead of leaving out leather, they placed the little gifts on the workbench. Then they hid again to see what the elves would do. At midnight, the elves appeared, ready to work. But when they saw the colorful little clothes and shoes instead of the leather, their eyes widened with delight. They quickly dressed themselves, admiring their new outfits. They were so happy, they danced and sang, "Now we're boys so fine to see, why should we longer cobblers be?" They danced right out of the door and over the green, and they were never seen again. But from that day on, everything continued to go well for the shoemaker and his wife. They lived happily and prosperously for the rest of their lives. So, what can we learn from this heartwarming story? For me, the biggest lesson is about the power of kindness and gratitude. The shoemaker was a good, honest man, and his kindness was repaid in a magical way. But more importantly, when he and his wife discovered who was helping them, their first thought was to give back. They didn't just take the help for granted. They showed their appreciation with a thoughtful, heartfelt gift. This teaches us that kindness creates a beautiful cycle. When you are kind to others, that kindness often comes back to you. And when you receive kindness, it's just as important to be grateful and find ways to pay it forward. A small act of generosity can make a huge difference in someone's life, just like those tiny clothes did for the elves. Thanks so much for listening today. If you enjoyed our story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tales. See you next time.